Hello, welcome to the Monty Dean Show, number 7, which is a prime number and a building number, I've found out, because I meet my guests in the green room. Today we've been joined by Andrew Bartzis once again to have a chat, because I think the last chat we only scratched the surface on anything, and it'll be an interesting chat for an hour. Andrew, how are you? And let's explain to the viewer/listener where you are, because, you sound like you're in Jumanji.
Yes, I am in Jumanji land. I am outside. It is springtime here, 45 degrees, and I'm having a fire. Earlier today, I decided, because we're going to have a snow come in tomorrow, that I wanted to go out and do a ceremonial fire and get some prayers done. And I finished that up, and you had said yesterday you wanted to do an interview, and I'm like, you know what, I can just, when I'm done with the other one, start this. And we got the bugs popping in the background, and a little bit of a windy day, but the fire is really bright and hot right now. And
nice.
Help our conversation.
Excellent. So it's all part of my cunning plan, which we devised 50 million years ago. Now, that's a mind bender, but we're not here to talk about that yet. I had a thought of having a chat to you because wondering what your view is of how people are dealing with quarantine and the joy that is the conspiracy world losing their collective minds more than ever.
Well, the whole conspiracy world is on information overload. And I liken it to alcoholics that have an open bar at a wedding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds very good, yeah.
Alcoholics at an open wedding and no one's stopping them. They're consuming, and then they're trying to make what I call false pattern recognition. One day Trump is in charge, the next day he's not in charge. One day the aliens are coming down, and the next day it's the baby raping lizards coming forward. It changes. As much as the wind changes, the sheets of the winds, the conspiracy whims change at a moment. Because many of the community researchers aren't actually researchers. They're get their YouTube PhD.
Yeah.
And YouTube doesn't give you an actual certificate in information and the accuracy of that information. And all too often, somebody watches 15 minutes of video, hits share, it gets 100 shares. That video gets another 100 shares off of someone else's, and that's how information spreads. And the vast majority of people don't actually watch the whole show, go off what the title is, and that's what they defend as their truth.
Yeah, I've sort of noticed that I've downgraded from researcher to investigator, and I'm happy with that. I wouldn't be a private investigator. I'm crap. However, I'm reading headlines now instead of wasting time where, because 80% of articles are just fluff, and they sort of go against what the headline's only there to suck you in. It's like clickbait to get you in, and then you find out, no, that's not it. Also, I had a thought as well, and if you want to expand on this, it'll be awesome. There is an endorphin high when you find information as well, isn't there? Yeah, because I've sort of broken that. I'm capping it. Being a Pisces is an addiction. I have to recognize this. So go ahead.
People that are what I call the faux researchers, faux investigators, they get a dopamine release off of the narcissistic side that's going to share it and get external validation through the share.
All right, so there's an element of ego.
Oh, there's always an element of ego when it comes to the conspiracy world.
Yeah.
That doesn't make conspiracy world wrong. Conspiracy world has brought us to where we're at, where more truth can come out. It is the faux investigators who aren't honoring the real investigators and the real whistleblowers who had to come forward and have their lives turned over and turned to hell.
Yeah.
Okay? You have too many people that are, hermits in their house and haven't gone out in 20 years, thinking that they're, SSP people, and they're not.
Mm-hmm. I do understand that as well, because an example I use is Edward Snowden, who now I'm not taking anything away from what he shared and him as a human being, but I did find it fascinating that the mainstream media listened to him compared to any other whistleblower before, like 10 years beforehand, which they could have popped up on Project Camelot or anywhere else. And I'm going to pick a number, 50% of what Snowden shared, most of the conspiracy words like, we've known that for 3 years. I just found that interesting. So, however, he's at the level of WikiLeaks in a certain way, where it's been that push to break out of the fringe elements, I guess.
The reason Snowden succeeded is the news media at that point was still split if it was going to support the deep state 100% or not.
Okay, yeah.
And the majority of the people that were the heads of the news organizations hadn't been forced retired yet.
Okay, because is it Operation Mockingbird? I may be getting these wrongs, but this and also didn't Obama sign in propaganda bill or something where the news can force the narrative, and that's playing into the conspiracy as well, because you have people choosing to follow the mainstream, which is not a negative thing. It's part of their choice and experience. But of course they're ramping up the fear as well, and the mass death virus, and then on the flip side you've got people saying viruses don't exist as one example. And so I'm wondering, is this all part of the divide and conquer, or is this the coronavirus, which I follow your camp, where it doesn't matter how it was created, but it's here to force the evolution, and we're in the end game, and there's a massive change happening, as we've seen, and so it's forcing people to check their duality, if I can say it that way.
Yep. So this is what I say: the system doesn't need to divide and conquer us. We are already divided and conquered. Conspiracy world, with the new flavor of the week and the buy one get one conspiracy theory of the week, keeps the divisionary process going. It's a self-propagating system. I call it the self-licking ice cream cone. Okay? And that's what conspiracy world is. You get a taste of this conspiracy, you taste of this conspiracy. That's why it's a self-licking ice cream cone. Now, the next layer here is to understand that because we are divided and conquered, how do we undivide and unconquer us? Stop consuming information in mass.
Okay. So I have heard you mention a call before in the last week or two. One way of e-revolution, the social media mainstreams, is a lot of people just deactivate their accounts for 2 days to freak out the algorithm.
Yes, but there has to be some form of social organization for that explains people the potent power of what that is. Example, just 30 people do it, it's not going to make a difference. Even if 300 people do it, it's not going to make a difference. Yeah. It's going to require hundreds of thousands of people to spread the word, and the social media engines are going to be aware of it because they're listening to everything you're doing. They're watching all of your posts.
Yeah.
It's got to be shared. It's got to get 10,000 shares on a post for it to have the potential of reaching 300,000 people.
Yeah, which is possible because they were going to storm Area 51.
Right.
Even though it was a joke, but still.
Mm-hmm. But they got 1 million views on it and 10,000 shares.
It got that bad, Andrew, that the Air Force had to do a briefing and had to explain I apologize to any anime fans watching. There's a certain character that runs really strange where they lift their arms back and they look like an arrow. And that was the whole idea of taking Area 51, but running like this character. And I believe a news live broadcast of someone actually ran behind the reporter about 200 meters behind him as that character, which was a hero to most.
Right. So when it comes to this overconsumption of information, the news media has purposely turned on the tap to full power. And they are broadcasting everything that they want you to hear. And we have a certain proportion of our population, they accept whatever the news media says without question. Mm-hmm. They are the ones stuck in the cultural hypnosis of what media means.
Yeah.
Now, breaking that cultural hypnosis we're a long ways away from that for those particular people. Mm-hmm. Now, people in the conspiracy world, they're going to be one step below the cultural hypnosis people, because you got to get them to stop consuming a bunch of things and accept a set of concepts that aren't telling them to conform, but are telling them, if you want to really enact change that can really make the system pucker its butt, these are some of the things you can do as a collective of nonconformists. Example, like if there were enough talkers and enough presenters that were going to say, all right, let's let's get all of our networks together and say what we're going to do is deactivate our accounts all on one day simultaneously, and we're going to deactivate them for 3 days.
Oh, see now that because my radar is very wide, and you did explain because my radar isn't just physical in that respect; it's multi-dimensional. It's like that relieves some pressure. Instead of freaking out, now it's fun to try and balance all the plates in the air because there's this person and that person. There is
want to join the movement.
Well, yeah. Well, there are people saying that the internet will go dark for 3 days, or there's 3 days of darkness, or 10 days of darkness, and I'm just wondering if we have that movement of banding everyone, burying the hatchet and putting fight the true enemy. Been watching a lot of Doctor.
Listen, no hatchets are ever going to be buried.
Not
on the internet, not in the modern days.
No,
don't get buried.
But it's that could be, instead of I'm just trying to reverse the prophecy in as I speak out loud stream of consciousness. Instead of having whoever enforce the 3 days of darkness, humanity could force the 3 day of darkness from their terms and freak out the algorithm and all the social platforms.
Yes, that would be the result if you could get people to work together.
I know. I've just gone to A to M, and I've ignored B, C, D, E, F. But that is a good question of what will bring those people together. It's what I have noticed in the last 15 years with the black hats trying false flags and everything else like that. There's an element of success where the fear is amped up a little bit. On the flip side, though, there seems to be balance of humans coming together and being brave. The example I use is the bombing in Manchester of a pop concert where they wanted total chaos, everyone running out, but about 10% of the people ran back in to help people.
Right. Those are the heroes.
Yeah.
To answer your question, what will it take to get the nonconformist conspiracy theorist people to work together? A fucking miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole divine thing.
I don't have an answer to that.
No.
All I can do is to say these are some ideas that can begin to be propagated by others that are out there. And, it starts with a phone call. Do you want to try? What does it take for everyone to actually work together and to temporarily stop trolling everyone?
Yeah, I just had a vision flash in my head where we may not know, we can only find out in hindsight where it started. It's like, Gary in Indiana, he makes a phone call or sends a message, and that's the pebble on the side of a mountain. And by the time that everyone's aware, it's an avalanche. And then afterwards, you just you look back and it's like, oh, it was Gary. But in a way, it's got to be. Yeah.
When the movie is written, that's where you'll find out how it's
yeah. Like I saw the Snowden movie, and I find that fascinating. I don't know how much of it is completely accurate, but because it's a story, and sometimes there's 3 months of data in retention, whatever. But the one thing that I find interesting as a side step very quickly is that he knew sign language, and another guy knew sign language, and that's how they sort of communicated when he was doing the heist. And so I don't know if that was just put into the movie. Or it was expanded, but it works well in the movie because it's Oliver Stone, I think. So yeah, he seems to be slightly clued on. I know Sean is, and I've seen you a couple of times on Sean's show as well. That was good.
Well, thank you. Sean's show is a unique show. 1 second here, I gotta move a log.
Yeah, he's talking about tree life, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just pointing that out.
My fire finally collapsed.
Oh, right, yes.
All right. So, can you reiterate the question? Sorry.
Oh, just praising you for Sean, because I actually follow him on Instagram as well, and he seems to be gone. He's following through. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he's very in the moment of now and love, and he's very happy with his partner from I've seen from the videos, and he's not freaking out. He's because of his reach of just by example, and he's a good man. He's helping out everyone. Now, going back to it would be how we can get people together while they're now. Is it because of everyone's freaking out because like one day it's this and one day it's that? And I think even one of my titles for my roundtable that I put up on YouTube was Virus, New World Order, or Mass Arrests, your choice. Are we all going to be on the same timeline, or is it going to fracture like that where it's... Yeah, see, like it's very hard to sort of question at the moment because there's so much information, as you said.
Sometimes you have to call out some of these bombastic conspiracy theories like mass arrests. They've been telling us mass arrests since 2009.
Yeah.
There's no mass arrest this year or next year.
Yeah.
Okay? And I will donate $1,000 to a food bank if there's a mass arrest this year. Okay?
Well, yeah, because that's a positive move, and if there are mass arrests, that's a positive move. So, like, it's kind of it'd be nice to be wrong. However, it's so that's the other,
any other conspiracy theorist to come forward and not necessarily take the cash bet, but just understand that there are some bombastic statements that are just so off the wall that you're ruining the rest of the community, and you have to have some sort of inner dialogue with yourself before you start randomly saying, this is it, nothing else can happen, I put all my chips in this bag, and I'm going to promote this and only this.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing about it, where it's all very people's brains seem to go, it's either one or the other. It's all 100% or 0%, where I'm sure there is a small pedophile ring in the elites, but it's not everybody. The way that it's portrayed, where like it's
every senator, every staffer in the White House is that way.
Yeah, it's not like Hitler times 1,000. It's like we would notice this. It's like there's elements of it where I'm keep being told that there are a small group of people controlling the planet. Like, well, they suck at it because we can have this conversation. So they're not controlling the planet. They're massaging and moving it, and they're trying to push it in a certain agenda. And I'll just use the globalization that we have, which is an unnatural globalization. Eventually, I can see the planet becoming one and having one world government, but it's going to happen naturally, as you would see. Like, I'm sure you've seen moments in time where with the different time bubbles, however, everyone worked in concert together. And instead of wearing black uniforms and everyone has a German accent, it's like, yes, you'll do this or we'll shoot you. And it's it's.
But because one world government has been bastardized by the many millions of conspiracy theorists out there, because of the 70s and 80s book culture was heavily influenced by the dystopian future.
Yeah.
And therefore, people have that in their fundamental belief that the future of a one world government is going to be fully destructive. It doesn't have to be, especially if we, the people, decide to, like, during this time of great change, to actually tell our congressmen and senators and different governments, reform or we're not going to go back to work.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's sort of like people are, that part of the conspiracy world is like every death is part of COVID-19. And it could be, I'm not sure, but that's the focal point now in the medical thing. The thing is, if I skip to the end, after this the second, maybe third wave passes, humanity should start saying, well, people say, oh, but there's been 200,000 suicides in the same amount of time. Well, let's work on that then. Or the flu season takes out people. It's like, you're just turning into a cold-hearted robot. You know what I'm saying? Where if the virus is gone and people keep still dying, let's work on that and make people stop dying.
Right. So it all comes down to activism without violence.
Yeah.
Intelligent activism. When you call your senators and they get 10 million calls, that does make a difference to them. Mm-hmm. They do things via the polls. And you can start calling your polling company and say, I want this, this, and this. There's many things that people can do as an alternative to kick the system in the nuts. For example, if there's an accurate disseminating of information saying we're going to call our senators and say and send letters. We aren't going to go back to work until you actually deal with corruption at the state level, the federal level, and the international level.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's a simple statement. I won't go back to work. I will stay on federal money. It's like that. And there are many more things that the statements that can be made. I won't reopen my business until you stop the corruption in the medical industry. You'll remove big pharma. Tell us the truth about vaccines.
Yeah. Now, 20th century thinking coming up now. It used to be if you made a phone call or you wrote an actual letter and sent it in, they used to believe that 5,000 people or 10,000 people felt the same way because you took the time and effort to write that letter. Would writing is it changed now where you can just bombard with emails or
letter writing still has an example. If it's 1 bag of mail per month versus 1,000 bags of mail.
Yeah.
They may not open, but they're going to start understanding the basics of the thing. And you can't be offensive in the letter. It's got to have a set of bullet points that everyone agreed to. What are the bullet points? We want to stop corruption. We want you to start passing bills that actually protect the citizens of this state and stop giving all the protections to the bailed out banks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So many concepts that can be put inside the letter that aren't going to make you conspiratorial in any way, but it'll make you look like a concerned citizen.
Well, yeah, one type of sentence would be start actually representing us. That's your job. Because I don't see like the leaders and they're supposed to represent us. They only care about people on voting day, on election day. The rest of the time they've got the power because you give over your power, and that's where like you voted us in. And here in Australia, they always call each other the honourable member of. Even if it's in a corruption trial, it's still called the honourable member. And like, no, that doesn't work. Yeah.
So one other thing to add to that, social justice and social activism are two different things. And the internet has really bastardized and created social justice, which is just, its own oxymoron. It's vigilantism. It's online vigilantism. Mm-hmm. And vigilantism never solves anything. It only makes it worse.
Yeah. Attached to vanity politics.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, the next level of thinking is going to require some intelligent millennials with technology who can talk to the boomer generation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because they like writing their senators. They like calling in. They like doing stuff because they were brought up on that. So when the millennials and the boomers and the in-betweeners get together and say, hey, we all have a common interest, let's share this common interest as a part of a letter writing campaign. There's something else that can be done. There are 5,300 counties in the United States. Each of them has a judge that has a small claims court. Every single a person in the United States can file a small claims court in all 5,300 counties simultaneously at once.
Ooh.
Right. For what? Exposure to COVID-19, failure of government. I want my $5,500 now, which is small claim court's maximum amount.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, the politicians don't really represent us, and
I've got damages. I want you to pay this medical bill that I got.
Yeah, like people want to sue China. I have no idea how that's going to work out, but still, one scenario is
even in the Hague.
Yeah. Because I can see like China being surrounded by everybody, but still, then you've got Kissinger, food as a weapon. Do you know that bans the selling of seeds in supermarkets in certain places in the United States? It's like, well, isn't food essential?
Yes, but it's the big seed corporations that have taken over.
Yeah. So this is part of the corruption, and also actions like that, what the corruption is being exposed more, which is kind of the theme of what we're going through, where people saying it's a dark, terrible world. Not really. It's just what's happening is the light is exposing the darkness, and so you're becoming aware of it, and people are reacting to that. And of course, there's an element of being scared, and so they step into the conspiracy world, and it's Wheel of Fortune style. There's 72 options. Let's spin the wheel and what it is today.
Right. So, in this modern world, there are many, many ways. It's still about organizing the feral cats.
Yeah.
Herding the feral cats to the can of tuna and them not fighting over the can of tuna.
Yes.
And who's going to say it was my idea first? It doesn't matter who idea it is first.
It's the
Okay?
goal. Yeah, the goal, not the. Yeah.
Right now, the conspiracy world isn't there. It just isn't there. Because the only way the people in the conspiracy world made money were at conventions and talks. Most of them don't have a lick of business sense of how to create a website that could create a product so they can get residual income.
Yeah.
And so they have any way for them to make money other than, the begonomics, which is begging in chat.
Yeah.
And that's not good for the mental health of those people or the industry itself.
Well, I did find it interesting. It's a divine lesson for me of if something's going wrong now, just stay in the moment, and something better comes down the road or timeline, which is true. You just need to recognize it. Because I decided to start my business of doing a podcast and a YouTube channel, and then 4 days later, the virus hit. I'm like, okay. And so I bounced back quickly by, people are going to watch a lot of YouTube. And then 2 months later, Will Smith is starting a channel, and all these people, because they're I don't think they're starved for money, but they're starved for attention. There's an energy exchange going on. So I'm like, fine. Okay, Mr. Divinity, I'm gonna. If I die in this body before I complete anything, I'm having a chat to the manager. I'm sitting down with the prime creator, going, "What's your deal?"
He's like, "I create, you manage."
Yes. This is why I think the ascension shall be outsourced. But that.
Sourcing to the God source beings, because the God source beings are too lazy to educate.
Well, yeah. Well, is it laziness, or we're just being worn down for rinse and repeat? But that's that. Yeah, that's
depression, laziness. It's all one and the same thing. And unfortunately, I'm going to hammer on those people who call themselves researchers or investigators. You're not a researcher or investigator if you're using YouTube. If you don't have documents in front of you, you don't have forensic equipment to study documents. If you're just taking testimony, it's hearsay. It doesn't actually change the reality. Because guess what? Everything in the conspiracy community has been out for a decade. There's nothing new coming out in conspiracy world. All the UFO stuff, all the lizard stuff, that's all been out for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything disclosure has already been disclosed to us over a decade ago.
Yes. Yeah. Around the end of 2012 aspect of it.
2009. Everything had been disclosed to us.
And then 3 years later, you had the 2012, which, if you're part of the negative side of things, was well played. Where, like, I correct people politely, of course, where they said, everyone thought it was the end of the world, 2012. The Mayans got it wrong. And it's like, well, no, the media thought it would be the end of the world. And the Mayans didn't say it would end. It's like a chapter ending and starting. The planet's still going to be here. It's the end of a world, and then a new world will turn up. And so it's like, getting to your favorite book and you read chapter 8. Oh, it's the end of the chapter, and you throw away the book. It's like, well, there's another 17 chapters. What are you doing?
Right. Unfortunately, people don't realize that part. They were just there for the marketing hype and got clickbaited for a few years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happens to the investigators that have their quadruple PhD in YouTube, you get clickbaited all the time.
Yeah. And that brings in the dopamine hit as well, where you find out something, and that could that can transfer. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying that dopamine hit off of information is just as bad as a cocaine hit.
Oh, yeah, same sort of level with intensity.
Yes,
Ooh.
It hits the pleasure center.
I think we've discovered what fandom is as well, because if you sidestep into, say, Star Wars, which is completely massive, it's been going for 40 years. You only had 6 movies, and there is 38 books, or the expanded universe, and just there's that dopamine hit of when you're finding stuff. Like, I just finished reading Darth Plagueis, which is sort of a prequel to the Phantom Menace. and you don't need to read it to get the Phantom Menace. But if you delve deep and it gives you that dopamine hit, it's like, oh, that's what happened, and it sets it up and it just adds to it. And now I'm reading Heir to the Empire, which is a sequel to The Return of the Jedi. So I'm booking ending it quite well. But it's having that, there's a lot of people who can talk about Star Trek and or any fandom, even knitting. There is, once you find things, and like musicians as well, like, when people like Kirk Hammett from Metallica says, "Oh, I could be better at guitar," I'm like, I originally said, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're the guitar world greatest guitar hero." But then playing guitar, I'm like, because you can just find out. Well, I mean, he could go into Spanish guitar for 5 years if he chose to. There's so much more in the instrument.
That's right. And the same thing applies to the conspiracy community. They can go find something else to talk about that isn't conspiracy, but they don't. Yeah.
Now, if that made me think of Mud Flood, and starts with T.
Tartaria.
So, that came out of nowhere for me, and it hasn't resonated because I'm probably just tired of it's another new thing. But history's changed. It still falls into the paradigm of we're being lied to a lot. And okay, because you look at the history of Egypt where they're brothers but they're 400 years apart. Well, that's fascinating. How does that work? And it's when what is it an insecurity when people, the internet term is they die on that hill, when they defend it and they won't allow anyone to change. And from a spiritual point of view, I'm just trying to take the point of okay, that's your perception and that's your experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's when you start trying to recruit everyone.
You martyr yourself for an ideology.
Okay. Yep.
You die on the sword of your ideology.
Yeah.
And history's full of those people that are great influencers, that influence people down the wrong path, the wrong way. Unfortunately, we're living in a society that martyrship is daily actions. Okay? Martyrdom is giving your power away so that you're not truly your own authentic being.
Okay. I was going to say, is that addictive? I suppose it is in a certain way, but also it's the lazy, scared angle as well. Because if you're used to giving your power away, can't you do it? Just tell me what to do. That angle.
Pretty much, and that's why so many people with a podcast can collect a small audience that is hardcore listeners of them for whatever reason, and then they make a small concept out of that, and the next thing you know, they're living that life, and as soon as they lose in one or two audience members, they go hardcore into the other side, which is nobody's listening to me, this, and then the ego comes forward.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any business sense, they don't have any marketing sense, they don't know how to maintain what they have, what they've earned.
Yeah.
Okay? How many people jumped into the blogging world, and then in 2013, 2015, blogs completely failed? Nobody goes to blogs anymore. Why? Bad writers.
Yes. Well, it's been... go ahead.
Yeah, and then people stop listening to blog. Where do they go to? Well, everyone got overloaded on Facebook. If I see another petition that they want me to sign, I'm going to shoot the person or defriend them.
I would recommend defriending them. That's less karmic. Don't go and shoot them.
And it got so full of martyrs, people who lived their life through Facebook posting, fake awakened.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that has created a big separation in what real investigators are versus Facebook regurgitators.
Yes, because I know a flat earther who's against vaccines, which is I can see where they're coming from, and it's their choice. It's when they start attacking everyone for having a different idea to that.
Right.
And the way that the media has put forward anti-vaxxers, where even South Park did an episode about having a measles party, and that was 2009. So in a decade, the idea has changed completely, where you'll die and it's irresponsible to do all this type of stuff. Yeah, but we've been doing it for a century. and yeah, like there's a reason from it, but yeah, it's I won't go into it too much because it's the yelling. I know you're a Metallica fan. You remember the song "My Friend of Misery" off the Black Album?
Oh yeah, I love the song.
Oh yeah, they toured here in 2013, and I'm part of the fan club, and I wanted to meet the band. I missed out on that, but my thing was, could you play this rare track? And they did. So I'm like, well, I didn't have to see, but co-creating my awesomeness. But the first lines are, you just stood there screaming, fearing no one would listen to you. And I'm just, it's turned into a theme song when I'm seeing people where their face is red and they're screaming. It's like, yes, but the Earth's flat. Really? We live in a hologram. Yeah, that's how I diffuse the flat earthers. I don't care. We live in a hologram, and it's a teaching aspect of learning about duality, and it's a placebo universe, and what you perceive is reflected back at you. Yeah, so go ahead.
A little thing up, and this might be poking the sleeping bear, the sleeping conspiracy bear, defending their territory. Do you remember Kevin Annett?
I know the name.
Canadian guy defending the Native Americans and said he was a Native American, and the Native Americans came out and said, "No, you were never part of us." The one that's saying that the queen's a lizard, that's going to be arrested. He's super into high frequency law stuff. Yeah. And he was outed, but he never stopped producing shows. Completely outed as a fake in every direction in 2012, 2013, but he never stopped doing shows.
Oh, well, see, now is that a part of the fighting the conspiracy? Because during JFK, where that whole thing where, for me, it wasn't Oswald from, Bill Hicks back in the left. The first thing that happens is Kennedy grabs his throat because he gets tagged from the front and there was a bullet hole in the windshield. So the official story's gone out the window. However, the term conspiracy theorist was weaponized by the CIA to try and throw doubt into the whole thing. But if you look at in 3 years, 400 people died, 400 witnesses died. It's like, oh, that's unfortunate. And so with I had my point and it's gone, but it's there's so much doubt with everything. And I guess it comes down to discernment. So I think we've got about 20 minutes left-ish, if I can read time correctly. Let's shift it to what can people do in quarantine now? Because you can look at all this information. What happens after that, though?
Disconnect from the information.
Okay, yeah. Now, is that part like the weaponization where there's energy and it draws you in? Because there's this fake news misinformation, because I'm sure some black hats in the alphabet agencies are putting that stuff out there to muddy the waters.
Yes. So that what you look at looks back at you all the time. So finding a regular disconnection point. How much is too much before you're a glutton for the information? And you have to have your own internal parameters of this is too much. Anything more is going to drive me to a state where I'm not going to have any time to go and have enjoyment, go and play a video game, go and watch a movie that has nothing to do with conspiracy. I deal a lot of spiritual people, and I ask this question to people all the time, and I stump them. What do you do that isn't spiritual? Oh, I walk in the park, I meditate. What do you do that isn't spiritual? Oh, I cook my raw vegan food. What do you do that isn't spiritual? They don't have an answer. Everything they do is pervasive and spiritual. And because they don't have real grounding in the regular 3D world, because they're pissed off at it, guess what? We are meant to live in this 3D world and change it. We still got to enjoy it. So you got to find hobbies that are not conspiratorial, that allow you to reconnect to the general world out there. The general world is not your enemy.
Yeah, that's the playground. I remember one broadcast you shared that, and I think reading books was I finally whittle it down, and it's certain books, not every book, because for me, reading Star Wars, there's an element of spirituality in that. But I think just thinking about it now, probably driving the car. but yeah, without looking at the petrol prices, because
in a meditative spiritual state, you've got to allow the indulgence factor into it.
Yeah.
So I say is go and watch stand-up comedy. Well, you can't go out to a show right now because everything's locked down, but you sure as hell can put a Netflix stand-up comedian on and watch your stick in your ass. I want to watch conspiracy stuff. I don't want to watch this stuff. And examine your internal self that won't just allow you to be a part of the everyday world. That's step self-examination about how do I disconnect from the information. 2, you're going to have to learn to detoxify from the really toxic stuff that gets you triggered.
Yes, yeah, I understand that, yeah.
What does detox mean? Cold turkey. Allowing your body to go through the rejection of the energy, saying, no, this is too toxic for me at my growth right now. Mm-hmm. 3rd, well, now that you've disconnected, you've allowed some form of detoxification, you've got to be able to generate your own dopamine releases that aren't from information. Get a hobby, build a model, play with your kids.
Knit, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Learn how to create your own happy moments and activate your own pleasure centers out of willpower.
Yeah, because friends have been putting forward on the shows, find your passion. And now anyone listening and you said, yeah, but I like to research and that's my passion. No, that could be part of your spiritual journey, or it's a habit that is addictive at this point in time. Because what happens if, full disclosure, humanity wins, Jesus turns up with the Palladians, hey, look, I'm back. And once the end of this story happens, what are you going to do after? Yeah.
Right. I ask this question to spiritual people all the time. What next? What now? Now that you've had your aha moment, now that you've had your mystical experience, what next? What now?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all too often, there are certain passions that become secret obsessions, and secret obsessions that become self-possessive.
Okay. Yeah. It's sounds like a loop. Is that part of the experience of Earth at this point?
Just like a cocaine addiction.
Yeah, a loop. Yeah, okay. I've been watching Westworld a lot as well. So, yeah, you get stuck in a loop.
A loop of self-pleasure. It is mental masturbation when you're working at that high level of conspiracy theory, connecting dot to dot to dot. Q said this, A said this, J said this, Bob from down the street said this.
Yeah.
Okay? And mental masturbation to the point, every time you get a dopamine mental calm release and you're wiping it off yourself and you're starting it over again. I hate to be graphic there. That's unfortunately far too many possessed conspiracy theorists are exactly that.
Yeah, I had the moment as well. I sort of use that discernment daily, a certain way. If I go onto Twitter or Facebook and after about 10 seconds of scrolling, like I don't like this energy and walking, and I shut it down and do something else. I've had one or two hosts on Revolution Radio where they were feeling run down. It's because they've been doing it 24/7 for 3 years. And the short version of it is you need a break. You need something else. You can't, whatever you put in your mind comes out the mind, garbage in, garbage out type deal. And you need to have a break. And that host actually shares that advice as well, where like even, the biblical thing, like on the seventh day, seventh show, hello, the seventh day you need to rest. There's a reason for that, because that's what is the reason for, as a human, you can't go constantly. It's better that you can go sort of 5.5 days or 6 days, and then the body needs to actually just do nothing. I'm not sure. I'm fishing, but you know what I mean.
Day of rest.
Yeah.
A day of rest and enjoyment. That's it. So you can enjoy what you've created. And far too many people whose job is to be a blogger, a radio host, or maybe they have a job and they do that another 20 hours a week. You're working 60 hours a week. Okay.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I run 2 businesses. I'm averaging 60 hours a week. I mean, there's been plenty of times that it's 70 and 80 hour weeks.
Yes.
And that's with multiple employees. Okay, because that's what it takes to run a business and maintain all the relationships the business relationships that it takes to do that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, like I was on Rev Radio for many, many years, and great station. It has its own conspiracy presenter challenges. And here's an example. One day, one person, I met this really good, cool guy. I don't want to give names away right now.
No.
But he came on my show, and in 2 days later, every radio host on the station interviewed him in 2 days.
Okay.
Some one right after the other on the thing.
Yeah, on the
and
schedule.
Just me bringing a person on, always great, and then this started regularly happening. Not just me. Somebody else brought this guy on, and everybody on the station interviewed him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can come up with your own examples, because they didn't know what their business was as a presenter. Okay, and so many of them have a job, and then what it takes to get someone to come on. Like, how many times did I do an interview and I didn't read the person's book?
Yeah,
skimmed it. And then I hated going and doing other shows where I want you on my show. I want you on my show. Did you watch any of my videos? No.
Yeah,
and then
they see
like,
the publicity side of it. Yeah.
And then they're going to call me, I'm like the Wingrakers. No, I've been public the whole time. I haven't been hidden in 36 gates of hell. Okay? My material has nothing to do with the Wingmakers. But some Joe Blow told you he's like the Wingmakers. You can have him on. Okay?
Yeah. They make that connection, and so like, well, I can use that in my career and blah blah blah, and so like, I'm just happy to talk to you, and if you want to come on my show, you enjoy it, and I mean it helps, but also I try and help you, just in the interaction. I'm not saying like, ladies and gentlemen, I made Andrew Bartzis. Here's a T-shirt, and it's the showbiz angle that comes into it, where which it's sort of like, and I guess there could be a level of jealousy of seeing how other people are huge. Now, I will say a name, Kerry Cassidy, but she earned that level of notoriety and exposure because she went through the whole network of, like, she only did it to share information. She didn't want to become Ellen, and she's not like Ellen. I just want to clarify that.
I have a very different view on Carrie, and unfortunately, she became extremely aggressive to her interviewees, people she was interviewing, to the point where the people that went on knew she was going to beat them up every time and make herself look better.
Oh, well, yeah.
She shot herself in the foot. She absolutely she should be well into David Wilcox level with multiple things, but whatever went on, she wasn't able to secure the funding, wasn't able to do it on her own. Yeah. She's had multiple channels taken down out of pure business stupidity. And one of the things she tried to start was a conspiracy theory dating site. You know that she actually put hundreds of thousands of dollars behind that. Ooh. Are you a conspiracy theorist? Are you in the researcher community? I'm going to start a dating site just for you.
Interesting. That would help out, but still interesting.
That's just the level of shooting yourself in your own foot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, yeah.
Like I said, I have my own views on her. I'm just going to say, when it comes to business decisions, she made an awful lot of self-destructive mistakes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm probably looking at the peak, say, 10 years ago, and other hosts see.
She was just as bad 10 years ago. And in fact, levels worse.
Well, that's the first name that came to mind. So, or even I'm only bringing up people because of notoriety. David Icke, even Jordan Maxwell. But it's interesting to see how, because they're human and they've made choices, how they're actually moving forward. But people just see the showbiz angles. Like, I could be known as big as David Icke or Sean David Morton, and they just see the celebrity aspect of it, which is kind of, even, I mean, in academia, that's kind of silly, where you're supposed to be doing research or interviewing and stuff like that. Like, the way I get around it, I don't tell people what's going on. I usually ask a question, so I've got a get out of jail free card. Because no, it's a question. I'm not saying I'm right, but it is interesting to see how the celebrity side of things, where like there is a genuine notoriety of like this person has done this, and then there's other people that are famous for being famous.
Right. So I'll tap on this thing, Project Camelot, back in its day.
Mm-hmm.
It had a chance to really go high-end, super popular.
Yeah.
What happened to Bill?
Yeah, that split there was like, well, let's not, get the band back together type thing. Yeah.
If the Eagles could do it, they could do it.
Yes, and it'll be cheaper to see them as well because the Eagles. Wow. Yeah, but yeah.
Fundamental differences for the two of them, for there a proper reunion and a proper getting back together for the betterment of everyone. They could have been whatever hatches we don't know about. Okay?
Yeah.
But they didn't. And that created a massive schism in the whole group of people who are like, well, maybe I could present. I just need a camera and a microphone like they did. I don't really need a lot of... They proved that part. They were pioneers in that part. And then the internet came out where it made it easy to get a website. You didn't have to know coding. Okay? Yeah. You could get an email list. But most people who then tried to evolve after Carrie and Bill split, they didn't have marketing concepts. They didn't know any of that stuff. They didn't even know what being famous really means. They didn't know that oh my God, I got a video with 1 million hits on it. What does that really mean?
Yeah, well, up to 1 million people watched it for 30 seconds. Because I look at the count of like say the last show that you did, the 2-hour one, it's over 800 views. But you got to look at the average time, which I won't say on air. It's like, oh, okay. I think we're retaining about the whole 2 hours, 25% of the audience. But that's analytics and breaking it down and.
Right. The average view time is 13 minutes, which is 12% of the video. That's for the general and YouTube in general. That's just telling how many people actually watch the video. So if there's 1 million hits on it, really only 120,000 people watched it all the way through.
Yeah. You have to scale it down. Where I'm not sure how it works anymore, but I keep going to videos to see the like count or comments or something like that. And I don't think I add to views. However, I think Netflix changed their algorithm where if you watch 2 minutes of a show, it's counted as a view instead of half an hour or something. And sometimes it may take 3 minutes to realize this TV show's crap. That's
right. It may take 3 minutes for you to realize it, or 6 minutes, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, to get back to YouTube. Now, YouTube has had some massive censoring stuff going on. In 2014, they purged millions of videos off of their site that are never going to return, that were great research when researchers back then were actually quality people and not the second and third grade pretend researchers who've taken over since then.
Yeah.
Okay? Back in the day, what Nighthawk put together was a background group of real investigators, researchers, and then they burned out, and the next group that took over didn't have the basic fundamentals research skills. They just used what they found on search engines.
Yeah, I actually had a dream about Nighthawk last night, so that was interesting. He was younger and happy, and so I don't know. Yeah, we'll talk about dreams later, because the Shaman Resonance is going completely batty and wacky, and I think that is contributing to the schism in conspiracy world. And I'm trying to it sounds like a fun park. Welcome to Conspiracy World. We have Grey Alley. And it's interesting to see, like, as I described it, it's like the 4D chessboard. Someone's just got the board and flung the pieces up in the air, and they're all hanging there waiting to fall. And because it's not even like day to day. It could be in the same day where it's they're bringing in a new world order, and then someone else says, but they're saving the kids from the pedophile rings. Well, how can you do both if they're complete opposite? Or hey, it's the controllers or the powers that were are losing more. You know what I mean? There's so much confusion.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the confusion is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until we reach the next stage of truth. The first stage of truth, people are ridicule it. The second stage of truth, people violently oppose it. The third stage of truth, it becomes more self-evident. And we've got a long ways before the self-evidency of the truth of where we are at as individual beings in whatever country you are is common amongst the whole world, where we all can share a common self-evident truth. We're fucked until we learn how to do something that actually makes a difference in the people that are running your individuated countries.
Well, yeah, because that's part of the conspiracy world as well. There's a network and everyone is in on it. And I being Australian, I don't think anyone in the Australian political system is part of the cabal Illuminati. I think they're idiots and they've been duped into a certain plan. Right. David Icke said it about, it's ruled by psychopaths and run by idiots. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. That statement kind of makes sense.
I call it the idiocracy running the kleptocracy.
Yeah, because it's the people that want fame and notoriety and power. They buy into the story that they're told, and everyone's a clone. Mind you, if you look at Biden, it's like the cloning process sucks. The man's falling apart. Apparently, he had a seniors moment while Bernie Sanders was endorsing him, but they had that launch or something like that. I mean, we could spend another 3 hours just going through everything. I know on one of your, I think it was the comedy show that we did, fortnightly on Fridays, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States, we should get someone from, was it a marketing thing, or just take every conspiracy and join it in together into a diagram. Is that the way you said it, or you probably said it better?
All the conspiracies into one place, and you can riff from there.
Yeah.
And they put it all into, and then have an AI do a network analysis on it and compare it to the existing laws.
Yeah, and I'm sure the answer will be 42. And that's the fascinating part about comedy is you make connections that other people don't see, and that's almost like conspiracy world, where that's one thing I've sort of noticed. Pulled back into the observer thing, and most things are funny. Now, I don't wish people to die and they transition, because I know death is non-existent or it's a transition state. But still, you don't want family members to die. But is that basically the change? It's a bit of a giggle in the long term.
That's a tough to answer it.
It's a heartless way of asking. I think that's but you can see, like,
death is an inevitability, but it doesn't have to be scary.
No,
people die every day from heart attacks, car accidents. It's how the media is presenting it and what we accept out of it. And part of the awakening is the old guard has to let go of power, and we're seeing it desperately try to hold on to power in such a way that is causing death.
Yes.
Death. People are dying from the coronavirus. And all the conspiracy people say that no one's died. Yeah, there are people dead right now from it. People die tomorrow and the day after and the day after.
Yeah, well, there's a level at, if I may interject, that the viruses aren't sentient. They don't exist. The only way you can get them if you actually inject it. You won't get it passed hand to hand or touch or globule or anything else like that. So the virus doesn't exist because viruses don't exist or some strange thing like that. Like, well, it's fascinating because apparently when you get a cold, the body is purging all it's sick and it purges all this stuff. And like, well, that sounds like a virus. However, it's fascinating that groups of people do it all at the same time. How can, like, it does at night the bodies get together to like, okay, we're gonna have a flu on Thursday, so three of you, you know what I mean? It doesn't.
So whoever created the conspiracy theorist doesn't have a clue of epidemiology or virology. And those are the type of people that water down the real investigators. Get off the air. You got to have some form of common sense before you present your next line of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
They're real people that are out there.
Yeah, because especially if they're going through that change of like they used to invest in the mainstream. They find out they've been betrayed, and they're trying to find something. It's part of their journey, obviously, but they're trying to find someone or something to latch onto to have faith in. And then you get someone saying, "Oh, Trump's taken over the Fed." Well, you're the only person saying it. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And that type of level of information, that would spread like wildfire and be backed up.
Right. And they do that out of a narcissistic need to be validated.
Yeah.
And if we allow ourselves to really allow to see the narcissistic presenters for what they are, who are stroking their own ego with their presentations. Now, obviously, there's going to be some conspiracy theories going to throw it back at me and you. What are you, blah, blah, blah. We're saying there are a bunch of other people out there who are real investigators who do this and do it the right way, who have some form of business sense, who have some capacity to do some writing, who have some knowledge of the law, who have some actual knowledge of what they're doing compared to you who just decided to make yourself relevant out of your YouTube PhD.
Yes, yeah, it's see that's like going back to Star Wars. Only a Sith use absolutes. That's one thing, especially in this moment of now. Nothing is absolute except for change. And so when we say there are conspiracy theorists who are acting like this, it doesn't mean everyone 100%, because that includes us as well. It's the way that the language is being manipulated and bent into a certain shape. And if you're triggered from being said, there are some conspiracy theorists that go blah, 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 and you're triggered, you may be one of them. However, because you've been triggered, you're aware of it, and now you can do the inner work in that respect, or however you would like to say it, probably better. But you can sort of like, oh, okay. And you share information, or once again, it's just down to language. Like, this is a rumor, blah, 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 blah. If you follow it, you don't go around saying this is 100% true because I heard a guy say it on a radio station once.
Right. I'm going to give an example. I had a guy call the show, I don't know, about 3 months ago, and he wanted me to validate that the white people were being taken down and that white man no longer had a culture, and he wanted me to validate him as a psychic and through his conspiracy theory that white man was being taken down. And I said, no, you're wrong, man. Yeah. And I could have put up on him. I could have done all I did was I took his crooked, stupid ass statements and turned them back on him. Yeah. No, the society is really this way. No, the society is really this way. No, the society is really this way.
Yeah.
Well, later came back onto my YouTube page and started promoting all of his racist comments, in which I removed from my page because I didn't want any racist comments on my pages.
Mm-hmm.
He then called the show again and tried to once again promote it. And I'm like, listen, man, I do not support your white power in any way, shape, or form. Please do not put your garbage on my table. You have done zero inner work, zero capacity to actually understand that everyone's a human being, and you want to validate your own traumas because you choose not to be healed from whatever the hell happened to you. It turns out the guy's Jewish, and he wants to join white power.
Okay, that's interesting. I did like that statement, choose not to heal. Yeah. I know a couple of people like that as well.
Choose not to heal and stay violent and angry. Now, he then went back on the website and was screaming shadow ban this and this because he was super ash triggered that I confronted him.
Yeah.
He wasn't shadow banned. I was just removing his comments. Removing comments. But he spammed a whole bunch of stuff to the point where I actually had to ban him off the page.
Yeah, well, and that's your free will. It's common decency. I'm not going to come into your house and piss in your trifle. Like, someone may say something.
Your freedom to comment ends when you come to my door, on my social media door.
Yeah, that's like, say, the way that certain media things like, freedom of speech, it's tricky. No, freedom of speech is a wonderful thing. because there's responsibility of what you say. There's going to be a response. You can't say anything and get away with it.
But the conspiracy world has allowed it. You can't say anything and get away with it.
Mm.
No one's saying, hey, stop saying that stuff. We are on this show because we are reaching that information overload where people have to be able to say, hey, maybe I don't need to hit share on this. Maybe I don't need to Facebook regurgitate this.
Yeah.
The vast majority of those people, they're not even going to listen to the show, or they're going to listen to the show, ram it, or they're just going to move on to something else because we are a frequency they can't handle.
Yeah.
Says, hey, everything in moderation, even moderation, man.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be able to moderate your information.
Yeah. Well, even I'm sure someone's like, I can't see Andrew. Click.
Yes.
That's the level there. I can't see Andrew, and quite frankly.
Right.
So, all right. Well, we've gone roughly an hour, so it's a good point to bring up. So, in closing, what can you what's a positive aspect that we can do with the information overload, as well as maybe just even a basic level explaining discernment again, just as a reminder for people?
Well, every other Friday, you and I and David Ellis will be doing a comedy show. Come and listen to that. Okay?
Yep, that breaks up the energy. Yeah.
Something else each and every one of you can do. You can sit down and read an actual novel. Wow, what a concept. Stop information in from the videos and read a book. There's so many genres out there that can attract you. Just don't make it about conspiracy. Try not to read the spy novels because it's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Okay? There's an infinite amount of books out there. Other positive stuff, well, now's the time to get in touch with yourself. And that's not like touch yourself.
Yeah. Energetically, you pervert.
Yeah, learn how to get in touch with yourself. That can come into many different ways. It can be exploring a new hobby, talking to people about normal subjects. I mean, hell, there's no sports on anymore. So it's not like you're stuck in a sports conversation all the time with real people. There are an infinite amount of things you can do that can help you simply disconnect and detoxify from the overload of information. And that's a choice. Yeah. Courage is not mystical. It's a choice. Every day to say, I will moderate myself.
Yeah, and it's about balance, and that's one of my themes for my life. I've noticed, and it's been coming up as well. And not letting, because you're human, you have emotions. That's the special, from my understanding, that's one of the special things of being human in this galaxy, is we do have so intense emotions. The trick is, that I've experienced, is you don't let the emotions control you. You can control your emotions. Now, that doesn't mean if you're having an emotional breakdown and release that you ignore it or pack it away, because it's going to come back. You actually have to let that emotion you transmute the energy. And, boys don't cry, men do. That, if I can say it that way. You can have a mental breakdown and just release all this energy. And once you stop the energy, it's gone. It's you've gone through. You're controlling the. It's an interesting dichotomy. I think that's the right word. Where you allow the emotion to run wild, and when it peters out, you go back into control again.
Yep. So I want to add one more thing here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to formulate the best way for people to tune in to what I'm trying to impart to them. If you should choose courage each day, courage to stand up and say no to that which overwhelms you, you're going to start reclaiming your authority to be you. It can be from, no, I'm not going to watch this news show anymore, and I'm going to turn it off today, tomorrow, and the next day. Or I'm going to be courageous enough to say, hey, I'm going a little obsessive on this, or this, and I've got to break my obsession. Courage is a choice at every moment. And courage is not mystical. So many people think the courageous people step up, have all this mystical strength. No, it's courage. You choose to do it every day. You are a conscious being of choice through free will, and you must use and choose free will at all times.
Yeah, I can see it as being mystical 3 moments down. And it's like I had the courage to stop watching this. But in the moment, it's just being human on planet Earth right now. It's like A or B. Well, A is really destructive. I'm going to go with B. And then the ripples out, the ramifications, the knock-on effect is by staying in that free will. You see how interesting, I'm going to use the word interesting, the universe works, where example is you're in a car and you get to a T intersection. I've always thought I'll turn right, and then all of a sudden you get told no, turn left. But that will take me don't question it, just turn left. If you turn right, you could have a car accident and be in hospital for 8 years. If you turn left, you meet your future partner, or you win the lottery, or whatever it is. It's there's a people have a controlling element where they want to control everything. If you can control your reaction, I'm losing myself now. But it's by having the courage to go into your free will and do what's right in that respect, and then you allow the universe to follow up. What's a better way of saying what I just said?
Exactly the way you said it.
Okay, I'll take that on board. That's going in a t-shirt. Yeah, because that's one of my lessons or experiences was that, especially with social media and technology, they've shortened the attention span, and there's that instant gratification or instant response. That's not how the universe works. It sometimes does, but that's 5% of reality in a certain way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Learning how to battle instant gratification and get back to leading a fulfilled life. There's a long swing in the pendulum to get back on the right groove of life, where you're not following instant gratification. And so many people don't even realize they're led by the nose by their own instant gratification needs.
Yeah, we're extended. Welcome to the after party. Because I just had a thought, which I think we didn't cover, which was great for Conspiracy World. Do you know an artist? Because I want to, like Wally World from National Lampoon's Vacation. I think we should have a t-shirt, Conspiracy World, and it's like a fun park. The curiosity information or questioning. Because that would be, instead of following the right questions where I need to know this information, the mind goes, I don't know, I'll probably, I should look into acorns. Well, you know what I mean, where it's got nothing to do with my actual path, but there's a part of me because he likes to ask questions and find information. You know what I'm trying to say.
Right. So everyone has a path. So many people believe they're pathless, no purpose. You have an infinite amount of purposes. You just have to choose to embrace them out of trying to lead a fulfilled life, and not out of instantly gratifying yourself and making something relevant in the moment. For all too many people, snap of a finger, something suddenly becomes relevant out of thin air. That's instant gratification. That's a negative dopamine release that keeps you in the vicious cycle of not leading a fulfilled life.
Yeah, now that may happen in 5D, but you're not in 5D. You haven't done the work, so who knows when that will be? But it's not part of the game or the learning. We're in college here on the planet. It's part of it's playing the long game, and the whole. It's not the destination; it's the journey. If you have instant gratification, there's no journey. It's just like, oh, I'm here. For me to reinforce that, which I didn't need to, but I'm just seeing it, is start a YouTube channel. You'll know instant gratification just goes out the window, because you load up a video and then you wait.
Right.
And wait and wait and wait. But in the long run, like I can't remember, maybe a month and a half, your views it keeps on growing, and I actually have to go back to my first 5 ones because I didn't put a subject title in the roundtables, so I've got to listen to them again. And because I think my lowest video is 12 views, so Yeah, but that was in January, so maybe I'll have a memory trigger of questions that were asked back then as the COVID quarantine started to move across the planet.
Yep.
All right, Andrew. Unless you have anything else to share.
No, no.
Yeah. Well, that's enough. Let's be fair. You can't just. I mean, I did binge watch the Galactic History because got the sci-fi mind and I could absorb it. However, I can see people just watching one episode a day just to unpack so much information and concepts and everything else like that. So that's why we have breaks. I mean, me and Andrew could talk for 8 hours, but most people will fall asleep or the brain will shut down because there's way too much information. Go back, hotels. What? I'm sorry. So, Andrew, thank you for being on the Monty Dean Show once again. I'm sure you'll return because, once again, we're only scratched the surface. But I think hopefully we've helped people with dealing with quarantine and conspiracy world because if it's a spiraling rabbit hole if not checked.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Take it easy. Good having you on the show.
Yeah. See you soon, everyone. That was number 7. YouTube, like, subscribe, leave a nice comment, and share. And we'll see you next time.